Our Hebrew Bible lesson this morning comes from the prophet Micah, chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. It is found on page 838 in your pew Bibles, and I invite you to read along. Now, poor Micah is destined to be forever one of the lesser prophets. Part of that is because there's no explicit biography as with the other prophets. And it is a short book and not easy to read. It is a short collection of oracles and sermons that he wrote over a lifetime through various periods of his life. And it's often hard to know where one ends and the other one begins. To get the full import of Micah's words, we would have to know the details of whatever was going on in the world and his life at that time, which is impossible. But this being classified as a lesser prophet was not so in Micah's day. He was very famous. He was a contemporary of Isaiah, who we all know, and Hosea. He was even remembered 100 years after his death in Jeremiah 26, verses 18 through 19. Now, he served over the reign of 3 kings, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, about 740 to 700 BC. Now, this was a time of great uncertainty in Hebrew history. The kingdom had been divided. Israel was in the north, Judah was in the south, and King Uzziah had died. And that was the end of a great and peaceful era. The Assyrian Empire was growing increasingly to be a threat to these people, and they had already conquered the lands in the north. So here we have a nation in perpetual fear of external enemies. Now, the original audience of Hebrews living in the south would have easily recognized that this was a courtroom setting. As we hear in verse 1, "Arise and plead your case." Micah serves as defending counsel. The judge is God. And there is an impressive list of metaphorical witnesses: the mountains, the hills, and the foundations of the earth. Only when all members of the court are finally assembled is the defendant announced. And it is none other than God's beloved and chosen people. The charge is implied, but not stated. Let us listen for the word of the Lord. The prophet Micah is speaking.
Hear what the Lord says. Rise, plead your case before the mountains, and let the hills hear your voice. Hear, you mountains, the controversy of the Lord, and you enduring foundations of the earth. For the Lord has a controversy with his people, and he will contend with Israel. O my people, what have I done to you? In what have I wearied you? Answer me, for I brought you up from the land of Egypt, and redeemed you from the house of slavery. And I sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. O my people, remember now that King Balak of Moab devised what Balaam, son of Beor, answered him, and what happened from Shittim to Gilgal, that you may know the saving acts of the Lord. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? May God add blessing to the reading and hearing of God's holy word.
I grew up on the Maine coast, and as a result, I spent a lot of time on the ocean. My father did not grow up on the ocean and loved to share this blessing by inviting people out on our boat. Now, my father extended the invitation, but my mother provided the food, the beverages, the extra sweaters, the jackets, the sunglasses, the binoculars, the life jackets, anything anyone might ever need. All they had to do was show up at the appointed time. Well, this particular Saturday morning that I remember was one of those absolutely rare Maine perfect summer days. The sun was out, the water was glistening, there was a gentle breeze, no bugs, it was gorgeous. The boat was cleaned, it was gassed up, it was working, and it was stocked with supplies. And we motored up to the dock to wait. Now, did I mention that my father told our guests exactly what time to arrive? Oh, there was one other factor about living on the ocean, is that you always knew what the tide was. Whether the tide was high or low, or whether it was coming or going. Because depending on your course, and the depth of the tide could depend whether you could get into a dock, out of a harbor, under a bridge, or through a ways. Did I mention that my father told our guests exactly what time to be there? It was a fabulously fun and free day on the ocean, on this most perfect of summer days. All you had to do was show up. And oh, how my father wanted to share that blessing for these people who didn't get to go out on the ocean. We just had to wait for the time to arrive. Did I mention that our guests agreed to meet us at the appointed time and place? But as the minutes ticked on, I watched my father grow more and more anxious and disappointed. He had planned such a wonderful day of joy and bliss for them. But the appointed time arrived, and tick, tick, tick was ebbing by. Now, as my father is the kind of guy that is time and tide, wait for no man. I learned that, I think, before I could walk. And because he had been so clear with his instructions over and over and over again, because they had said that they understood and would surely be there over and over again, we left. And we were about halfway out of the harbor when our guests finally appeared on the dock. Well, you could see them with the binoculars. We were frantically waving on the dock, motioning us to come back to get them. And full of disappointment, we could not. And we motored on. Perhaps another time. And they were left standing on the dock. And that is exactly where we find our Hebrews in this morning's passage of Micah. God had promised them a life full of meaning and joy and love and blessing and promise. And they were left standing on the dock. Like our boating guests, they were missing the wonderful free gift that God so wanted to give them because they did not listen. They did not believe what had been told to them over and over again. They wanted to do it their way. They thought they knew better. Sounds a little like me and you, doesn't it? We get in that space. I know better. Like these Hebrews, when things go badly, isn't it easier to blame God? I mean, after all, God's not right here to defend himself. Oh, but that's exactly what God is doing in this passage. Now, I gotta say, the evidence is pretty damning, no pun intended, against Israel. He says, when you were enslaved in Egypt, I freed you. When you were without leaders, I gave you Moses and Aaron and Miriam. When your very existence was threatened in Moab by King Balak, I rescued you again. And when you needed to cross the river Jordan to get from Shittim to Gilgal, I protected and led you. Now, even the blind can see that Israel doesn't have a leg to stand on here. But this is where it really gets rich. Even when they finally concede that they might have messed up and they might need to fix this, they totally miss the point. They are left standing on the dock of their defensiveness and their dogged resistance to change. Like so many of us, so many churches, instead of changing behavior, we want to keep doing what we've always done, but we're going to do it harder and bigger and more intensely. Bye-bye. On the dock. So how about us? Would we like to experience a life so marvelous, so blessed, regardless of anything that the world dishes out? Would we like to know a love that exceeds all human understanding? Would we like to live a life feeling empowered and with a deep sense and satisfaction of living a life of purpose? Well, that's all possible. God tells us how in 3 simple but profound ways. Do justice. When we are busy caring for others, we don't have time or the space to let ourselves get in the way of our relationship with God. We become right-sized. And without justice for all, nobody gets to live the wonderful life that God intends for us. Second, love kindness, or sometimes it's translated as loving kindness. Now, it's related to the first one, but it goes beyond that. It means giving when no giving is required. Acting when no action is deserved. It penetrates both our actions and, even more importantly, our attitudes. It causes us to love like we hear in 1 Corinthians 13. You know that one, that the scripture we read at every wedding? And I invite you, if you haven't seen it recently, to look it up and read it this week. And thirdly, to walk humbly with our God. Now, humbly does not mean, oh, woe is me, grovel, grovel, grovel. Humbly means walking hand in hand. Inviting God into your life. Not just as an insurance policy, but as a friend, as a guide. Authentically, with all our warts, all our good things, all our bad things. In fact, the vitality of that relationship is the very heart of faith. God did not want more oil, more sacrifices, more ritual. God does not want to be our insurance policy. policy with increasingly growing premiums. God just wants us to show up, really show up, with open hearts and minds and hands. God really doesn't care about our rituals unless they bring us into deeper relationship with God and one another. So, to have that wonderful life that we talk about, do justice, love kindness,